All right. How's everybody doing? Today is Saturday, the 29th, 28th. Okay. Man, we had so much rain out here in the south suburbs of Chicago. I was looking for Noah and his ark. It was bad. Our basement flooded. A lot of people's power went out. It was really, really bad. I've never seen it like this, and I've lived out this way most of my life. Okay. First, I want to start out by inviting you to visit my other social media platforms. They all work in congruence with each other. My website is sirearlsworld.com. My YouTube channel is It's My World 1. Twitter, Sir Earl's World. LinkedIn is Sir Earl Bell. Facebook is Earl Bell. My Instagram is Sir Earl 1. And my Snapchat is Sir Earl 1. I'd like to invite you to, stop in and visit and see what great things I put on there on a daily basis. Okay, this podcast today is titled, it's very emotional for me because it's some things that I've never expressed outside of probably my fiance who knows me best. Um, I did never had a great relationship with my father. He passed away December of 2003. So it's been a while, and I often reflect back on how I came up, the ways that I decided to go in my life. I trace things back. My violent tendencies, of course, came from my dad, but it's life happens to it happens for you, not to you. And I sit back in retrospect, and maybe it's a good thing that I, was not raised in his presence, and I developed into who I am. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that I missed from not having a father. Um, I'll say from the time I was probably 16 to the time I was 37, I never visited my father. Up until 16, I have no memories whatsoever of my dad. And just like any kid, I played sports, organized sports, basketball, football was two of my favorites. And I would just always dream and hope that one day he would come and watch me play and be proud of me. Well, that day never happened. And I always questioned, and I always said, why would a person who you look just like you're his namesake, you're his only son, why did he not love you? That was always a nagging question to me, actually until the day that he died. Why did he not love you? What did you do? Um, I didn't, him and my mom divorced when I was very young. There was always a constant reminder every time I would see my father. My father lived a block away from me. Every time I would see my father, there was a constant reminder because he was paralyzed on one side, which came from the retribution from my mom of shooting him, which, you got to be pretty violent for a person back in the 60s to do that, for a lady, for a woman to do that. So that was always a constant reminder to me, and it was always a source of irritation because I love my mom a lot. I was very close to her mother. And, that was one of the nagging questions that I had. And I just always wondered, how could he not? How could he not love me? And I'm his namesake, and I'm his son, and all those things. So how could he not? With the absence of a father, which a lot of people go through, I'm not unique to this situation. You wind up having to teach yourself the things that you grow up dreaming and believing that your dad would teach. I know, there's a lot of wisdom that I try to pass down to my son. Whether they listen or not, most times is irrelevant. They'll listen, but at least you said it. At least you did the best that you could do in trying to teach them the ways of this world and what they're going to go through and what's expected of them as a male. So I in turn had to learn how to be a man. And when you grow up where I grew up, where the only signs of men are, drug addicts, drug dealers, thieves, convicts, you learn a different type of vision. You start to learn, you grow up and you believe that this is the way men act. fooling around with a lot of women. I had kids very early. I had my daughter when I was 14. Actually, her birthday was yesterday. Tarita, she made 40 years old. And, so I had a child very young because where I grew up at, it's common. So you just believe that it's okay. I didn't learn until much later in life that, maybe things should not go that way, but they did. And I don't regret them. I love my daughter very much, even though I don't see her or talk to her as often as I probably should, but I love my daughter very much. So I, my dad died from I believe a heart condition. They never really said why, but they would say his heart wasn't pumping enough to clear the byproducts of your like your liver and your kidney, and he would swell up with this water. He would swell up with about 100 pounds of water, and they just could not figure it out. And the last couple of years, the reason at that age of 37, I started trying to build more of a relationship was my son Cameron wanted to know and wanted to be around his granddad. So I felt an obligation to visit more and take Cameron more and let him understand and not go through the things that I went through. And in that process, I learned a lot. And I can honestly say, forgiving him was the best thing I ever did. We never verbally looked at each other. I never said, hey, look, this is how you hurt me. And I never asked for an explanation. It was just, we just knew. We were so much alike, we just knew. And I started to realize that, I realized this as I got older, and my kids got older, and my older kids, we didn't have the kind of relationship that I had hoped that we would have. And I was getting accused of the same things that I accused him of. And, you start to realize you're no different. And when I started to realize that I'm no different, that those things that I held against him started to become a lot clearer that, you're no better than him. He did the best that he could. Maybe he didn't know, his father, I don't even know who his father was. I've never heard about my grandfather. I never heard it, and I never saw him. So maybe he wasn't taught that, and maybe during that era he learned, and he was the best. He did the best that he could do. So when you do the best that you can do, you can't be held at fault for that. You're working on limited knowledge. You're working on limited experience, and you don't know how to be a man because maybe a man never taught you how to be a man. And so you make these mistakes. And I remember it was maybe a few days before Christmas in 2003. He was in the hospital, and I had told him I would come visit him. And when the nurses would try to take him down to dialysis to drain the water, he would say, no, I can't leave my room. My son is coming. Excuse me. So I got there, and he was in dialysis, and the nurse said, I said, well, I'm here to visit Earl Bell Sr. And she said, you must be his son. And I said, why you say that? She said, one, you look just like him. And two, he kept telling us he refused to go to dialysis because he said, my son is going to come here and I'm not going to be in the room and he's going to leave. Which they brought him back. I waited in his room about 15 minutes. They brought him back and he was asleep. So I left. I got up. I left. I was about to go because it was just, it's a scene you don't want to see. It's a bunch of tubes, and this is not the person that I had come to know. So I left, and I walked to the elevator, and I heard him calling me. Wait, come back. And one thing, and so I went back. But one thing I realized when I went to the hospital after he passed, from where the elevator was that there's no way I could hurt him. So that was God talking. So I went back, sat down, and me and him sat there maybe for a couple of hours, watching the football game, laughing, talking. He seemed very coherent. And before, early that day, my grandma and my aunt was up there, which they both passed away. And they said he was so incoherent, he didn't even know who they were. And I'm sitting here, he knows who exactly I am. We're watching the football game, we're laughing, we're talking. And all of that was just like what I would have wanted. So I'm thinking to myself when I go back home, I'm like, oh man, he's getting better. We're going to build this relationship. We're going to be close. And 2 hours later, we got the call that he had passed away. So I came to understand he was just waiting on me. He could not pass without seeing me. And that, so sorry. And that answered the question for me, that he really did love me. How could a person on their deathbed hold out until they see their only son? That's love. And going through that experience, it answered so many questions, and it taught me so much, and it eliminated so many negative emotions that I had. I would have never grown to be, and that's the way it was designed. It was designed that way. I would have never grown to be the person that I later became if I had not went there, if I had not forgave him, if I had not had all those questions answered. And the thing about it, I never one time asked why. It all got answered within that time that we just sat there and watched the football game and just laughed and joked. I believe he knew I forgave him. I forgave him, I forgave me. Because I realized in all these years he never wanted to stop being my father. I wanted to stop being his son. And that's crazy. So I tell everybody, if you have somebody, anybody, a friend, a cousin, a parent, forgive them, because it is regret, if you don't, that you will live with for the rest of your life. I can't even begin to imagine what my life would be like if I did not forgive him and forgive myself and understand he did the best that he can do. So for that, I'm thankful. Every day, I'm thankful. So I thought I could do this without breaking down. So the point of this is, people do the best they can. We may not be happy with it, but we will grow to understand that we're judged the same way that they are, even though we're doing the best we can. Nothing in life or parenthood comes with a blueprint. You only can do the best that you can. So instead of holding those feelings of animosity and all those things, forgive that person and understand life goes on. So whether you build a great relationship or not after that, forgive them, forgive yourself, and just try to be better. I just tried to be better. My son played basketball, which he's not the greatest basketball player in the world. This was in grammar school. And I made it to every game that he played because that's what I would have wanted. When he calls me and he needs to talk, I'm available because that's what I would have wanted. So the person that I became, especially as a father, I just used reverse of what I didn't have and what I really would have wanted to have. And I believe that that breaks the circle. So hopefully my son will grow up and he will understand, I had a good dad. He did these things and he'll pass it on. So, as people, we have to break the cycle. There's a lot of people growing up without a father or a mother, and these people are alive. Not like they're not here anymore. They're alive, and they just, I don't know, for whatever reason, they choose to not be in their life. But you have to understand, you can't judge other people. You don't know the path that they walk. You don't know why they're doing what they're doing. We just angry that they're doing it. But at some point in time, you have to look deeper. You have to get on your knees. You have to pray for forgiveness, not only for them but for yourself. I mean, you've thought a lot of things, and uh, him being not such a good father made me into what I feel, or what my son tells me is a great father. I don't think I am. I think I got a lot of ways to go, but I do the best that I can. Just like I would, just as I judge anybody else, he did the best that he can. So, in closing, I just want to say, learn to not harbor feelings, learn to forgive, learn to let go, learn to move on with your life and become what you didn't have instead of repeating the cycle. Take that, break that cycle and do the opposite of what you didn't like growing up with your kids. And that's how you break the cycle. You learn from it, you don't repeat it, you move on, and you learn how to forgive. And it made all the difference in the world to me. I couldn't even imagine where I would be, the burden that I would have on me if I didn't forgive him. So until next time, uh, I hope this helped someone. I know it helped me. And this Sir-Earl I'm checking out. Peace out. Talk to you next week.